Want to see a 35 millimeter work of art? Stay tuned. Hi, my name is Frank White and welcome to another one of my YouTube videos. Today I am going to talk about the Sigma 35 millimeter f 1.4 HSM art lens. Now, the Sigma 35 millimeter art lens is truly a work of art. In fact, Sigma considers this lens one of its flagship lenses, and this truly was the first art series lens that Sigma produced. So far, they have produced a number of other art lenses. And according to Sigma's website, the art series of lenses is for the, quote, discerning photographer, unquote. Okay. So, in spite of that, here are the pros and cons of this lens. Pros. Now, first I'm going to go through the pros, and then I'm going to go through the cons. Okay? So, pro. Price. This lens is under $1,000, and for the glass that is in it, one would expect to pay somewhere well over $1,200 for this lens. Pro. Image quality. The image quality of this lens rivals that of both Canon or Nikon's most expensive lenses. Pro. Glass. This lens has superior glass for controlling color fringing, aberrations, sun flaring, and other aberrations that would degrade from an image. This lens also includes SLD, special low dispersion glass, and it has one fluorite element in its glass, which is a really expensive piece of material that only the high-end lens makers tend to buy and use in lens manufacture. Pro. User upgradable. Now, this lens works with an optional USB dock that will allow the user to upgrade the lens firmware as and when it comes out, if it comes out, which is a really cool thing, because if there are improvements in the lens, then the lens does not have to be shipped back to Sigma or Sigma's authorized technicians to upgrade the firmware. Pro. Large aperture. At 1.4, then it's really a pretty wide open aperture, rivaling only those that are found in the more expensive lenses. Even with primes, to have a aperture of 1.4 is pretty impressive, in my opinion. Pro. HSM, hypersonic motor, and that's Sigma's term for its motor that drives the internal focusing, which is on this lens fast and accurate. For the, not the pros, I just went through the pros, but for the cons of this lens. Okay, con. Weight. This lens may be heavy for some people. It weighs in at well over a pound, and in fact, about a pound and a half, 23.5 ounces. And for some people, carrying it for some length of time may prove challenging. But for me, I think the weight of this lens give my camera a really good balance. You know, personally, I don't have any problems with the weight. Con, price. Now, this lens is over $600, and historically, one would expect to find a prime lens for somewhere between $400 and $600. But, you know, this lens does have those elements in it that makes this lens and a high grade lens if it was made by one of the name brand companies, specifically Canon or Nikon, or even Sony for that matter. And those are about the only cons that I could think of. Oh yeah, there is one more con. This lens is not weather sealed. And if it had been weather sealed, that would have been great. But considering the price of this lens, then I'm completely happy with it the way it is. Okay, so it was tough finding a list of cons for this lens. In fact, really and truthfully, those that I got in those items that I have in my con section are not really cons at all. But perhaps you can find some cons. And if you do have cons for this lens, I'd love to hear about them. So stick them in the comment sections below. I, for one, am happy to see that a third-party manufacturer like Sigma is getting away from their bargain basement lenses, have got their act together on quality control. In fact, this lens, from what I understand, each art lens is inspected by a Sigma technician before it leaves the manufacturer's facility. So Sigma is now taking its quality control seriously. No more, hopefully, finding a lens finding a good copy of a lens iffy. Sometimes I've heard that with companies like Sigma, Tamron, and so forth and so on, it was real possible to get a bad copy of a lens. I think both Sigma and Tamron are working diligently on their quality control systems. But this is about the Sigma lens. Now, if anybody has ever taken photos with L lenses, you know that one of the biggest differences between shooting with an L lens and shooting with a non-L lens is that when you load it up on your computer, it almost looks as if it's already been post-processed, and that's even shooting raw, which is the only way that I shoot, or at least 98% of the time I shoot raw. So the saturation of the colors, even in raw, tend to be spot on. Since there's so little aberrations, then everything looks more crisp and sharp than it do out of the non-L lenses. And this lens is no exception. When I pour the work that I've done with this lens into my Lightroom application, I was pleasantly surprised with how saturated, not oversaturated, but just the right amount of saturation, and how tack sharp my images were. In fact, you can see some of the ones that I took. So, if I could, one of the things that I think is important in a lens is to talk about the flow rate. So if you guys have not looked at what a flow rate element in a lens is, then I would suggest that you take a look at it, because it really, that piece of material really makes a big difference in the quality of a lens. The build quality of the lens is second to none. I don't think it's made of metal, but the technologies in plastics these days almost rival that of metal, especially the polycarbonates. So even without metal, with this polycarbonate plastic, then this lens is surely going to hold up for years and years and years to come, perhaps even generations. Fortunately, as with any good lens, it does have the metal mount on the end of it, and that goes without saying. It has a real decent size focus ring that's easy to grab when you are trying to pull focus manually. Has just, I'm sure you've heard this, or if you haven't heard it, you will hear it if you study the art series of lenses. But the focus ring is right on the money. You couldn't ask for a focus ring any better. It does have a little extra grip here that gives it a good feel, especially for those who hold the lens properly. I think when I first started out, I was holding lenses like that, and guys, that's wrong. So yeah, this is a fantastic lens. Now, I want to give a shout out to Southeastern Photo for making this lens available. They do have a store in Raleigh, Chapel Hill, and Wilmington. So thanks, Southeastern Photo. If you're in the area, please stop by and visit those guys. And I also want to thank you for watching my video. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I read them all. And please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. If you're going to shoot anybody today, shoot them with a Canon or a camera of your choice. And thanks, guys. And as always, happy shooting.